Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all work in progress. My name is Rob Commodari. I'm your host. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and co-author of the book Next Level Your Life. Tonight, I got a little home cooking here today in Baltimore, and I got Mike Bordick from the Baltimore Orioles, and he doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to tell him anyway. I'm in heaven right now. So, just a quick intro to Mike Bordick for those who don't know. He was originally signed by the Oakland A's in 1986, broke into the majors in 1990. He's got so many good stats or facts here. 2 World Series rings, none with the Orioles, though, one with the A's and the Mets. He's got one-time All-Star player, Orioles Hall of Famer, 110 straight games without an error, which is 548 straight chances. Amazing stuff. In addition to that, Mike's got a charity, or 501(c) that he works with called the League of Dreams. We're going to talk about tonight, which is a program for youth, school kids, adults, and disabled or
special needs. Yeah,
special needs. Okay, special
any
needs.
kind of special need.
Yeah. And then he's an ambassador to the Baseball Warehouse. We'll talk about that too. So, Mike, man, thank you so much for letting me have a bit of a taste of heaven tonight, and looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, me too. Same here, Rob. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you. So, Mike, tell us a little bit before we get into the charity, the Baseball Warehouse and the League of Dreams. Tell us a little bit what it was like. I mean, you went to college. I think we talked about the University of Maine, right?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when you're at the University of Maine, did you going into Maine? Did you think you had a chance to play Major League Ball? Was it always a dream?
You know what? It really wasn't, to be honest with you. I played all sports growing up, like a lot of kids back then. We were allowed to. So when baseball season was over, I'd throw the glove in the closet and I'd pick up a football and go play football. And to be honest with you, football was my favorite sport. I just really loved how everybody, it was a team. If one chain broke down, a guy missed a block, everything fell apart. So I just really loved the football concept, to be honest with you. But I just never grew. And I ended up getting recruited to go to the University of Maine. And it was the greatest blessing I think I ever had, because it ended up getting me around kids that were all really like-minded. They all loved the game of baseball. They had all experienced success at the University of Maine too, because back in the early 80s, the University of Maine program actually went to the College World Series 5 out of 6 years. And I was fortunate enough to go 2 out of the 3 years I was there. So they experienced a lot of winning. They understood what talent across the country was like. And we did really good for a small school from up in New England. And it was a great foundation for me to really experience the right way to play and have a winning attitude.
So when you got to Maine, I assume you started there as a freshman. Is that right?
I did. Yeah.
So when you get there as a freshman, are you thinking Major League Ball at all? Are you thinking minor leagues? You're just thinking, I just want to have a good college career.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking just survive, baby. Listen, I was thrown into the biggest whirlwind of my life. I mean, for all kids, getting into college is a completely new experience. But all of a sudden, when you're on a nationally ranked college baseball team, and now you're playing in front of the Texas Longhorns on your winter or spring trip, and you're playing against the Miami Hurricanes, I mean, my mind was just absolutely blown. It was really hard. And back then, though, thank goodness for development of players. And there may be some schools like that around right now. I don't see it like I did back then. I mean, they could take their time with the young freshmen. I hit 200 my freshman year, and it was just through the development of learning how to play. I hit 270 my sophomore year, and then 360 my junior year. So it was just a process of development. And no, I didn't have any thought of actually playing Major League Baseball. I just wanted to be part of this winning team. And it wasn't until actually my junior year that I ended up feeling like, well, I feel like now I can compete with guys. I've seen everybody play throughout the country. I thought I was going to get drafted, but it just didn't happen that year.
Wow. So, yeah, so it's funny. I'm feeling you here because you're talking about the Miami Hurricanes and the Texas Longhorns. I think I mentioned to you, I played at Florida Atlantic University, which was Division II initially, and then went Division I. And we played against University of Maine. We played against the Hurricanes. And so I love talking baseball with people. I absolutely love it. So that's cool. So you didn't get drafted after your junior year, you're thinking, right?
That's right. I thought I was going to. I had been approached by the scouting director, and he asked if I was, thought about signing. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. I think we had 3 guys sign off our team that year, and I ended up going to Cape Cod. I got an invite to play down in Cape Cod, played for the Yarmouth Dennis Red Sox, and I was actually only down there for a couple weeks, and I wasn't really doing that great. I think I was hitting like 190. I remember Craig Biggio and I would talk, oh my God, this is like the hardest league ever. Wooden bats. We were just getting carved up. Biggio, of course, went on to be a #1 pick the next year, but he struggled with me the first 2 weeks in Cape Cod, and I ended up putting together a pretty good weekend of baseball. And next thing I know, an Oakland A scout, JP Ricciardi, who ended up becoming a big league general manager, ended up actually signing me my last year with the Toronto Blue Jays. But he asked if I was interested in signing. I said yes. Ended up signing a contract for $700 a month, and I was on a plane headed to Medford, Oregon, to start my professional baseball career. It was the coolest thing. I know $700 a month isn't a lot of money, but when all of a sudden you're playing a game that you've always loved, and they're writing you a check, I don't care how small it is, it's the coolest thing, the greatest thing. It's like, oh my gosh, all this stuff was worth it.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. So you get drafted in '86, or you sign in '86, and you break into the A's lineup in 1990. Mike, 2 years ago, I think it was, when Adley broke in, he came up to his first at bat, and they show him standing there looking at the crowd. Go back to when you made your first plate appearance. I'm assuming at home, and maybe it wasn't, but your first plate appearance at home. What was that like?
Listen. It was horrifying because, well, this is the fact of the matter is, in 1990, little baseball history, the owners locked the players out.
That's right.
So we weren't even in spring training. And next thing you know, when they decided to come to a conclusion, part of the deal was the Major League roster got expanded by 2 players. And I ended up being one of the 2 players. And Tony La Russa, the manager of the A's then, asked one of the new coaches who had just come from the minor leagues, who happened to be Tommy Reynolds, who was my head coach in Single A and Double A. Tony La Russa asked him, who do you trust to catch the ball? And he said my name. And that's the only reason I made that 1990 team. I didn't even play much. To be honest with you, I may have gotten my first at bat, but I doubt it. I think I came in late in games. I think I got my first at bat when I was a September call-up. When they cut the rosters back, I went back down to the minor leagues and then got called up again in September.
So you played 7 years with the A's, and then you had this big, I'll let you take us through it, this big opportunity to sign with Baltimore as a free agent. But I'll put it this way, there may, in your mind, there was something, there was a challenge, there was an obstacle, something standing in your way possibly, and a big thing at that. And everybody in Baltimore knows that, but you can share the story, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So just a little bit more of the Oakland history. When I came up with Oakland, they were part of a dynasty, and they had gone to the World Series 3 years in a row. So I got to go to the World Series in 1990. We went back to the postseason in '92. The Blue Jays ended up winning, and then next thing you know, new ownership came in, and they started just tearing apart the A's team. Emmy, please. And Tony La Russa went to St. Louis. Losing started happening. They weren't keeping players. McGuire went to St. Louis. Steinbach went to the Twins. And to be honest with you, it was such a different feeling being part of a consistent losing team that I just felt like the only way to play was to be on a winner and start thinking about winning again. When the Baltimore Orioles called, I thought it was a joke initially because they had Cal Ripken at shortstop. But I knew this team in '96 went to the postseason, and if not for the ball hit out to right field, right, would have probably had a chance to go to the World Series. So, and I knew they were a great team. And when Pat Gillick, the general manager, actually approached me and challenged me and said, this move's going to happen with or without you, but we think you're the guy that can handle this transition. And so, he's a really good salesman. The fact that I felt like the Orioles were on the verge of that dynasty that I was a little bit of a part of with Oakland, just great players, great pitching, awesome bullpen, Davey Johnson, the manager, Hall of Fame general manager, Pat Gillick. I thought they were going to win for years. And that was a big part of it too. And I got an opportunity to come to Baltimore and play shortstop and experience time with Cal Ripken at third, Robbie Alomar at short, Rafael Palmeiro over at first base, Brady Anderson, B.J. Surhoff, Eric Davis came through these doors. I'm telling you, some of the best pros you'd ever want to meet, and Cal Ripken obviously right there at the top. Veteran teams, they just know how to take care of themselves, and we did. And we had a great year in '97. We went wire to wire that year. In my opinion, the best team in baseball. And Cal and I, we spoke at an event a couple weeks ago, and both said that '97 team was probably the best team we each ever played for. And I came up with the A's that were so good. And Cal won the World Series with the Orioles in '83, and he still thought that '97 team was the best team he'd ever been a part of. And I felt the same way too. And we all thought, here we go. Okay, '97, great team. Back there in '98. And then all of a sudden that winter, Davey Johnson leaves, Pat Gillick leaves, and now it's just like there's no continuity. Yeah. I felt personally like, what just happened here? We're building a dynasty, and next thing you know, Davey Johnson's gone, Pat Gillick's gone. We had a new manager coming in, and I don't know, it was tough, man. And we just never, I don't know, it's weird how we never overcame that. And all my time with Baltimore, it was tough.
Yeah, as a fan, we expected that as well. Well, what was it like, Mike? Because Cal Ripken, when you came over, Cal was in the throes of a streak. They were talking about moving him to the third, and from short, right? And I think you had some conversations, and there was maybe some anxiety about, what's the relationship going to be like between you and Cal if you're bringing me over to play short and move him to third? Is that sort of what happened there?
Oh yeah, definitely. And part of the plan was and speaking with Pat Gillick and my agent was I had to talk to Cal. So I got set up a phone call with Cal. And Cal was, gracious enough to actually answer the phone and humor me for a little bit. But, he basically, he didn't say, come on in and play shortstop. He said, you got to do what's best for your family and what you feel is right. And I just felt like it was the first time I'd ever had a multi-year deal. We could settle down a little bit and feel like, we'd become part of the place. And looking back, it was a challenge early, but this was one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life because all my family's here. I had 3 kids born here in Baltimore, and Baltimore's our home now, and we feel great about it. We feel great about the Baltimore Orioles right now too because they're playing so well.
Yeah, they are. It's true. So I should have asked you before the Ripken questions. What was it like, playing with the Bash brothers?
Yeah, that was freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, these guys were monsters, right? And hey, I was naive about a lot of things, but I knew that there was something going on there. I didn't witness anything, but These guys were just big monsters, just behemoth guys. And they were doing things in baseball that nobody had done before. Jose Canseco was the first ever 40-40 guy. 40 homers, 40 stolen bases. Next thing you know, Mark McGwire comes along. And Jose was Rookie of the Year his first year in the big leagues. McGwire comes along the next year. He's Rookie of the Year right behind Jose. And then Walt Weiss, the shortstop, gets called up, and he's Rookie of the Year 3 years in a row. So they had a young foundation. And then they had guys like Ricky Henderson, Dave Henderson, Carney Lansford, Dave Stewart, Dennis Eckersley. Harold Baines was on that World Series team. Willie Randolph was on that '90 World Series team. And they just had guys all over the place, man. It was incredible. And Tony La Russa did this intentionally. He got winning guys together. You think about '88 and '89, they had like Dave Parker, Reggie Jackson, those guys on those teams. Yeah, they might have been a little at the end of their career, but they were still great clubhouse guys that wanted to win and could influence teams. And they did, man. La Russa and Sandy Alderson put together quite a group. And for a while, it was like, my gosh, like you were in like a movie star with the Bash brothers from town to town and the popularity, of the Oakland A's back then.
Yeah, that's wild, man. It was so fun watching them. So, Mike, take it back to your streak, your errorless game streak. So 110 games without an error, 548 chances. Mm-hmm. You had, I'm assuming that it's like we always talk in business. You got to do the reps. You got to do the reps. You got to do the reps. I mean, like you're taking 548 chances without an error. How many reps were you doing before practice, before games, I should say, and rep after rep after rep? What was that like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, talk about loving what you do for work. I mean, my gosh, I love taking ground balls.
Yeah.
It wasn't work. You know, there might be times where I'll say, oh yeah, well, it's hard work and preparation, but the stuff I did on the field was I never considered it hard work. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to take 50 ground balls today. Are you kidding me? Thank you so much. Wouldn't everybody think that, really? I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I was a little weird that way. But I love taking ground balls. And I didn't love, like, getting extended and making great plays. I love the monotony of trying to take a regular ground ball and field it the best way I could every time. Yeah, I worked on my backhand, but I worked on trying to do it the best way I could every time with as much focus. This may sound corny, but with as much focus and heightened focus that I could have. So it got bizarre, man. When I was working through the minor leagues and I had to find ways to be different. And my way to be different was not fool around on the field. I respected the game, but I didn't think there was need to backhand glove flip while you're taking ground balls or flip a ball behind your back or between your legs. I laughed at it. I thought it was fun, but it was a missed rep, in my opinion, to make yourself better. So I literally started that in the minor leagues. And when I got to the big leagues, I had great fungo guys, and they were patient with me. And we would work out routines where we would be on it, man, where I could just, like I had Sam Perlazzo and we had magic out there. Like I just moved my head like this. He'd hit me 10 ground balls to the right. I'd do this. He'd hit me 10 ground balls to the left. If he hit a line drive, I'd just let it go. I said, we're working on ground balls, buddy. Let's go. So maybe I did fool around a little bit, but the ground ball work I had was I just really tried to focus. And I think, believe it or not, that record happened in like my 11th year of playing.
Wow.
So you think of all those repetitions and you know, like you said, repetition kind of makes the master in a lot of things. And I'm not saying there wasn't a lot of luck involved. There's luck involved to not get a scorekeeper to call something a hit or an error. It's bizarre that way. But I think in sports, if you can do things the right way and stay healthy for X amount of time, and I don't know the algorithm on this, but the game tends to slow down a little bit. And I think there are great players like Michael Jordan that said those great moments where everything just kind of slowed down. I really just felt like when I was getting ground balls in game situations, that my anticipation, the way I saw the ball off the bat, the angles that I had to take, you know, those pursuit angles to balls and understanding the speed of the ball, the speed of the runner, and how to dictate me athletically, how I was going to be able to record an out. And I ended up feeling like I got into that zone where I just saw it better than I ever had. I still had athleticism. I moved well and still had my arm strength. So I was able to, you know, parlay that into a pretty cool 110 game, you know, streak. But there, like I said, there was some luck involved in there. And I don't do you have time to share a quick story about that?
Sure, go, man, go.
So it was probably like midway through. I'm just going to throw this out because I don't know. Maybe 56 game errorless streak. So it had made a little bit of news, but it wasn't even close to Cal and Ray Ordonez. So it was just an afterthought, right? So there's a soft B.J. Ryan, closer for the Orioles. He wasn't the closer then, though. He was still a setup guy, young lefty that had dynamite stuff. He was starting to struggle in a little bit. There were guys on second and third, and he made a pitch, and it was a soft line drive up the middle, and I tried to get the short hop, and I didn't get the short hop, and it went underneath my glove, and 2 runs ended up scoring. The ball went in center field. And I asked our PR guy, I said, you got to go talk to the scorekeeper and get that changed. They gave it a hit. I said, you got to change that to an error. BJ does not need 2 runs tacked on to his, you know, ERA. And he wouldn't, he went up there. The scorekeeper wouldn't do it. He was a homer, so he wants to give his guys, you know, hits and RBIs and things like that. So there was a scorekeeper that gave a hit that in my mind thought was an error. All right. So I end up with 110 games. The game that I lost the streak, I was playing for the Toronto Blue Jays. There was a soft line drive hit up the middle. I'm telling you right now, it was the same ball. Went right under my glove. It never came up, and they gave it an error. And I just smiled, man. I said, there you go.
You know it, huh? You know
got me. Yeah.
You said a few things here. Number one, I love the humility in the sense, like, you were willing to give up that streak. It wasn't about you. It was more about B.J. Ryan, and, you didn't want him to suffer the earned runs versus, you keeping that streak alive. So I love that. But you said something before. You said you love the monotony of taking the ground balls, the monotony of the simple ground balls. And I think there's something profound there, not just for sports, but for life. It's the monotony of the everyday tasks that we do. And if you fall in love with that and you get good at that, then everything else falls into place. That's what I love about what you said there.
Yeah, amen to that. No, I love that. I believe in that. I think you tend to appreciate things a little bit more with heightened focus. You know what I mean? So you're right. I mean, that is the mundane things in life. If all of a sudden you can do them a little differently with just maybe a little heightened focus, it changes the whole view of it. Changes it incredibly. So
that's profound. People need to hear that, because people get bored with the mundane, right? And they get distracted. They want to do something new. It's the bumblebee effect. They want to try something different. Here, over there, but stay true to that stuff. I love that, man. What about? I got to ask this because we were talking a little bit at that event that our friend Mark Palak hosted. What's it like? I mean, I played college ball and we talk trash, so I'm sure there's a lot of trash talking amongst each other in the clubhouse. And then was there trash talking with other players as they hit second base or they got a base, just trash talking there? How'd that go?
No, I'm a firm believer in trash talk. I came up with it because back then, like when we played in the 80s and stuff, you could chirp all you wanted. There were no rag rules and things like that. As a matter of fact, you wanted to try to make somebody feel really bad. And if they left the field crying, which some of the guys did, felt like you're better. You're better. So, no, rag rules were in. They were in the big leagues too, man. So you're never safe. You always get knocked down. It's the most humbling game, which is also a great beauty of it. So, your friends take you down too. You know what I mean?
It's great. I love it.
It really is. It really is.
Mike, so how hard is it when, like, you everybody goes through slumps, right? Mm-hmm. And it seems like what I see, like, just because I sat up close to the dugout a few times, watching games over the years, and it seems so busy. It's like whether you hit a home run, whether you strike out, whether you get a single, a lot of times you just come back to the dugout. Nobody says anything to anybody unless it's a really tight game and high stakes. But it's like when you're having a slump, like how often do people either leave you alone or they get in your ear or they get in your ear and you say, leave me alone?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. It's crazy, right? Hit Emmy, please. I'm sorry. My dog.
It's okay.
So, it's just such a mental game. That's really baseball. That's what it boils down to. I think everybody's got a pretty similar skill set, some a little bit maybe more athletic, but it still all comes down to what's happening between your ears, whether you can, phase out the bad talk, the bad self-talk, that kind of stuff. So when slumps happen, a lot of times it's your own self-talk. So whatever anybody else is trying to say to you to try to make you feel better, it's just turned as a negative, and you just don't even want to hear it. It's really hard to deal with, right, going through slumps, because everybody's got the answer. At least in the minor leagues, everybody's got the answer. In the big leagues, more times than not, it's just the hitting coach that you end up leaning on and going to.
And so when you're having those slumps, or how often you go back to the cage, is it the tee? Is it the soft toss? Or is it all of them that you work on? So,
of course, I don't mind working, but sometimes I use work as punishment. So there were times when I first came over to the Orioles, that transition, the initial transition was really hard. It was hard on me. I was trying to do more, I think, than I was capable of. I was trying to fill Cal Ripken's shoes instead of just being, who I was as a player. And I ended up really slumping, like maybe the worst slump I ever had because of the want that I had, the want to do well for this team that was so good. The want because a lot of people believed in me to bring me to Baltimore to try to be the guy. So I was really trying hard, which in baseball, if you try hard, nothing works for you. It's
Right.
It just doesn't work, right? You got to play this game relaxed. You got to play this game, trust in your preparation, and go out really and just try to have fun and compete. And I was in a really bad headspace. And yeah, so I struggled for like a month and a half, and I heard everybody screaming at me, saying this was the worst deal ever, all that kind of stuff.
You're talking about the fans. You're talking about the fans, right?
Yeah, the fans and the media was riding me a little bit and stuff like that. But it really wasn't until Sam Perlazzo one day just put his arm around me. He said, "Bordy, you got to relax, brother. I don't know what you got to do, but you just got to relax. You got to just play the game." And so I started having a little bit better self-talk and, just kind of relax and letting things go and saying whatever happens, happens. And I started turning around. I had a much better second half, had a really good playoff run and felt like I overcame, kind of tough obstacles because a lot of times most of the obstacles that are in front of us are right here in our own head, our own self blocks us. And when you can find ways to navigate it, whether it be through your preparation, which really ultimately that's what I ended up doing. I will work hard, have fun working, doing what I do, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Take my ground balls the right way. I will do my tee work. I will do my front toss. I will do it with focus. I'll study tape and then just kind of play, right? I mean, and there's still frustration because you want to do, so well and so much. But early on, when I was talking about work, I would go into the cage after games and just say, "What are you doing?" And hitting off the tee and trying to iron out a swing path. It was just so unhealthy.
I can imagine. Yeah. We used to use the term. I remember bringing up the term instead of saying try harder, try easier. Try easy. Because we grip the bat tighter instead of nice and loose. The alligator arms instead of extension.
Yeah. It's hard to get in that headspace, though. And I really think it's a skill. I think some people are gifted with it. I think most of us have to work at it to try to control your inner thoughts or control your breathing. I think the game's come a long way in that. I see a lot of players now taking a couple deep breaths in their nose, so they're using breathing techniques to help them relax at the plate because it's pretty intense, man. You're up there. You're supposed to be one of the best teams at baseball. You're playing the Yankees, tough situation. You got to, try to calm your heart rate down a little bit so your muscles will be more explosive when they're relaxed.
Mike, it's funny you said that about the deep breaths because I talk to younger people sometimes here and there in business and training and whatnot, and even my kids. Like I do some speaking, and every time I go, get ready to present, I get the butterflies, I get the jitters, and you take that deep breath. And I tell my kids, I said, watch a baseball player. Every time a player gets up to bat, even between pitches, you'll see them stand there and go.
Yeah.
You take that deep breath, and that's to clear those butterflies. That's what I believe. I mean,
absolutely. No, absolutely. And really it's not magic or anything. It's just that it's proven that it helps relax, your brain, your thought patterns and things like that. Because, as well as if you're thinking of something other than just seeing the baseball, you're in trouble. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of guys step up there. They use that breathing technique to kind of bring them back just to understand what their task at hand is. And that's to focus on the baseball, see it and hit it.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, so you talk about mind space and you talk about the self-talk. Are you a guy that's read and studied a lot of personal growth and development at all?
Absolutely. Yeah, I that's really all I do, man. I love health and wellness. I love, the mental side of things, the mental game. There was a great psychiatrist or psychologist that worked for the Orioles. One of the first broke onto the scene as far as understanding the mental game of baseball. He wrote a book actually called The Mental Game, Harvey Dorfman. And he was somebody that helped me in the minor leagues. Just really good at, visualization, understanding, what you're doing, how to focus to make yourself better. It's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. You just learn from mistakes, that kind of stuff. So he was really good and influential. And ever since then, I've always really I've had a passion about trying to learn about that, try to make myself as good as I possibly can be. I think that little journey I was on just playing Major League Baseball, I was lucky. I got to play shortstop till I was 37 years old. So that being said means you got to somewhat take care of your body. You got to stay athletic, to play shortstop and take care of yourself to some degree. And I'm not saying I was the king of health and wellness when I was playing, but I certainly got the most out of the techniques that we had back then. Diet wasn't as strong as it is now, but I'm a firm believer that, diet can really play a huge impact on not only physical growth, but mental stability too.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of advantages of being an athlete nowadays, and it's important to really take care of them just for health and wellness, but as great personal challenges because it keeps you younger longer. You want to stay active. You want your mind to be sharp so you can kind of thrive throughout your life.
Yeah, that's good. Or do you read anything now or listen to anything from that in that genre or that theme?
Well, I listen to a lot of health and wellness podcasts. There's one that I listen to called Peak Human that, they just had I think their thing is called Sapien, like the Sapien diet, eating what our ancestors ate. So there's just focus on, I think a lot of these things are clicky, whatever. I think if you eat real food, you're probably going to be healthy.
Yeah.
But if you eat processed food, you're probably not going to be that healthy. Yeah. And the problem is we can eat healthy food, but I'm as guilty as anything. I'll eat, good food during the day, but dude, I love me some ice cream. And there are times where I'll eat ice cream for like a week straight. You know what I mean? So, everybody's got their weaknesses and food is tough, but it can be a game changer if you're an athlete and focus on that. My gosh, it can do wonders for mind clarity.
Of course.
Different kind of energy systems. So really cool stuff.
So, Mike, after games, did you have a big, smorgasbord of food in the clubhouse? What was that like? Or did you just go out and get your own meals?
No, well, they said big league spreads, after a big league ball game. And typically we just, sit around and eat. And one of the things that was really cool, and unfortunately there were some incidents in Major League Baseball that irresponsible, players, whatever accidents, things have happened. So they had to take alcohol out of the clubhouse. But as a young player, when I would sit around an Oakland clubhouse, when they had all these round tables, and there'd be a can of, bucket of beer in the middle of the table, and guys like Dave Henderson and Terry Steinbach, the catcher, Dave Stewart, they're just talking about the game of baseball over a couple beers and maybe a burrito that we had for the spread. I mean, it was just like, you talk about heaven.
Yeah.
Just soaking every second of that stuff in. And I looked forward to that after every game, win or lose. Let's sit down and talk shop, baby, and have a beer. And what an experience it was. I love that.
I can imagine that. I mean, that sounds so awesome. And you just talked, I was like, man, that's heaven right there.
Yeah, exactly.
That is great. So, Mike, I could talk baseball all night. I really could. I love this stuff. But let's get into, you did some color commentating, broadcasting. Can we talk about that briefly and then get into your League of Dreams thing? I want to hear more about that. But how was the broadcasting? How did that work out for you?
Man, I loved broadcasting. And unfortunately, I got my opportunity after the passing of Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
And, it was actually Jim Hunter. I was in player development. I was a roving infield instructor with the Orioles. And I asked Jim Hunter if I could get a camera crew or something to come down here and interview so I could interview Manny Machado and Jonathan Scope. I said, I think that would be a good piece to have on Masson or something like that. And he said, geez, that's a great idea. Hey, would you want to interview with Mr. Angelos for being a baseball analyst? And I was like, well, I don't know, I guess. Why not? So I did. I actually interviewed with him. And it was, I I had a great talk with Peter Angelos. I'd never really talked to him before up until that moment, and I got the job, and it was the coolest thing. Now, not only did I get to work with, Jim Palmer and just some of the greats. How about Gary Thorne? Was, the play-by-play, Joe Angel on radio. So it was really cool. It was a great time. Of course, Buck Showalter's team went through there. So we had some success. It was fun talking Orioles ball. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Gary Thorne and Jim Palmer just about preparation and what I loved, right? The preparation it took for me to be a good infielder. They both said, use that and apply it to this, because you want to get here a couple hours early. You want to prepare for the game so you're not caught off guard. We're going to have production meetings. And I was like, oh, this is awesome, man. So I just love the preparation for games, to look over and see Gary Thorne doing the same thing, looking through, articles in newspapers, just trying to find information and thinking that was just, these are pros, man, getting after what they do. And I loved every minute of it. And I took kind of a different approach, which I love doing, was kind of trying to be a coach, right? If you see a play, it's one thing to say, hey, that's a really good play. But it's another thing to say, well, he really got his back foot planted. He was able to get his eyes behind the ball and then create momentum to his target, and just have the viewers kind of look at it a little differently, And I think that is what I had the most fun doing.
Well, Mike, that's what I love about with like you doing it and some of these other players when they're color commentators. They've been there. They know it might be going through the body, what might be going through the mind in the process. So I'm not downplaying these other guys, but you're there. You've been there, and I just think that's so cool to be able to share that experience like in a firsthand fashion, right?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was well received. I think it's kind of weird though. Baseball commentators, a lot of pitchers, because it's pitch centric, but I think it's also fun to talk about how athletic and the things that these players can do in the field now. Watching Gunnar Henderson at shortstop every night blows me away. I thought Mateo was the most amazing thing I ever saw, when he was playing shortstop, and Gunnar is just a freak. Gunnar's the best player in baseball right now, so enjoy.
You think so? You think he's the best in baseball?
Oh, I think so, hands down. He does it all.
He's a stud. He's definitely a stud.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you got out of the commentating, and then what drew you to the League of Dreams? Tell us about the League of Dreams and what drew you to it.
Yeah. Well, it was pretty easy. So the League of Dreams was started in Catonsville, Maryland, about maybe 21 years ago, and by a guy named Frank Kalarick. Frank Kalarick was a minor league player with the Oakland A's back in the 70s. He was a catcher, but he went to Maryland. He was a star there, went to Catonsville Community College, played through the minor leagues, knew all the great A's players because a lot of the young players came up through the system and stuff. So he had some involvement with the Special Olympics, and then he decided that he thought, well, listen, I'm going to cater to every special need group. There aren't going to be any limitations to the kids we work with, and we're going to introduce them to baseball and softball. And that was the start, and that was 21 years ago. And now I've been chairman of the board for the last 5 years. I've been involved volunteering for 17 years, and we've branched out. We did a great clinic in Catonsville Community College the other day where we did basketball and baseball. So the basketball team from Catonsville Community College, the baseball team, and the softball team were all out there helping the student population at Catonsville Community College with special needs who came out to participate. It was a blast. And I'm telling you, the kids love it. The peers love it. The volunteers, if you're a volunteer at one of our events, you get to witness what special needs kids go through, what they desire, which is just to be appreciated for who they are, to be able to enjoy things that we get to enjoy. So we want to try to give them that opportunity. And we've been thankful to be able to do it for a while, always hoping for, the angel donor to really help us give more kids with special needs opportunities to enjoy sport and STEM program, things like that. So we're actively involved to keep it going. I feel blessed to be part of this. I definitely think it's God's work.
Where is the League of Dreams? You host it in a specific area, or is it all over the place?
Well, we have a website called leagueofdreams.org. Our home base is Catonsville. pretty soon I feel like we're going to name Catonsville Community College our home, and hopefully start some programming there, and branch out, because we can go to Dundalk, we can go to Essex, to those community colleges as well, and really impact the communities.
So you said the magic word a couple minutes ago. You said the angel donor, right? So share with the audience, if you would, like, hey, this is a volunteer organization. It's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
How does it function? Obviously, you need donations. So if somebody wanted to make a donation to this program, what would they do, or how would they do it?
Yeah, just go to leagueofdreams.org, and on the website we have a place for donations. We are constantly trying to upgrade, our online presence. So I know we're working with somebody to upgrade our website, but leagueofdreams.org is the best way to contact us. Yeah, we've written some grants that have given us some help. We've won some grants, it's nonprofit, so donations really help for sure.
So what touches your heart most about the whole League of Dreams thing?
What touches my heart most?
Yeah, and that's whole process of the League of Dreams. What
Well, I'll be honest with you right now. I get emotional at every event we have, and whether it's seeing the look on a kid's face that hits the ball, that might be in a wheelchair, and all of a sudden hits the ball that's being pitched to him, or hits it off the tee, and see the look on his face, and then whether it's their caregiver or a parent that many times is on the field with them, just to see their kids' reaction, the emotions that are on the field. And then when you get our great volunteers that just show how human this all is, when they all come together and they're cheering for their peers. It's incredibly powerful. And truly honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, I can see the emotion a little bit now. It's great. So thank you for sharing that. If there's anything more to talk about that, please do. But in addition to that, you have the Baseball Warehouse as your partner.
Yeah, the Baseball Warehouse. I got involved probably 6 or 8 years ago, and local guy right here in Owings Mills started a batting cage. He played some semi-pro baseball, and his dream was to get guys that were either in the minor leagues or maybe some major league experience to come in and give lessons. And it kind of has taken off. He's got 4 locations. I'm considered an ambassador, so I'll give lessons. We put on clinics for teams, for leagues. We do coaches clinics. And I also, through the Baseball Warehouse, I go to schools and I speak to kids. I talk to kids about, some motivational stuff. I actually talk to them about their nutrition, just to get them a little bit more curious about that stuff and share my experience, because there are, even though it sounds all rosy and pretty cool, which it was, I was vulnerable just like any kid, and had my problems as a young kid. I love sharing my story with especially middle school kids. I was cut from the basketball team, I was cut from the baseball team, and I was cut for the football team all in 1 year. So how do you overcome that? I'm being a topper here against Michael Jordan, because I know.
Yeah. But you one upper.
Exactly. But you stick with it. You keep grinding through, and different opportunities, kind of came up for me, and I like sharing that kind of stuff with kids, because when I see a kid, you just never know what's in there under that skin and that heart. You may see one thing on the outside and just do a little prejudge on athletic ability and things like that. But nobody measures really what's in here. And I'm living proof of that, because I probably should never have made it. I was undrafted, had to kind of work my way up. There was some luck involved, for sure. But I enjoyed a long career in the big leagues, playing with some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, I like what you just said there about the heart, because you can look at talent, you can see numbers on the thing. How does one really dig in and I know we just said you can't judge heart, but how does one measure someone else's heart? How do you look at a player out there and say that guy's got heart?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's just by their actions on the field. Do they, support their teammates? Do they do just some of the detail stuff in games? Do they line up on a cutoff spot? Do they pay attention and understand, the details of a game. Do they hustle down the line? Do they go first to third? Do they talk and cheer on their team? Are they a good sport? I mean, there are a lot of, qualities and characteristics, I guess, that I think a lot of those kind of players have that show maybe just a little bit more inner desire and fire and passion.
Yeah.
So I think those are just some of the common, characteristics and traits that guys have.
That's great. So I was going to say this earlier when I introduced you. I said you're just 3 kids shy of filling your own team. So
yeah, right.
Mike's got 6 kids. If you haven't read between those lines, everybody.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Mike, how have you? If you look back now, you look back at your career. You said it earlier. You said it about the League of Dreams. It's God's work. But do you look back at your whole career from the time you were playing, Cape Cod League and the minor league ball, and breaking into the A's organization, standing next to the Bash Brothers, moving Ripken over to the third base, then commentating, and now doing this charity work? Do you ever look back and say, man, what a great life this is?
Oh, man, I'm telling you, every day. There are times I just can't even believe what God blessed me with. His hand was on me. He got me through so much stuff. To be able to experience that kind of, major league experience, right? You know what, for me, kind of the coolest thing is my dad just loved every minute of my baseball life.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, it's just great, because I think a lot of us all have dreams. I look at my kids. I got a couple kids that are good baseball kids. Yeah, I hope they get to experience. I want them to play. I don't know if they're ever going to be big leaguers, but play and enjoy that experience. And my dad got to, he coached me when I was a young guy. But he introduced me to sports. He was my football coach. He coached me in a lot of stuff. He was hard, but I think just knowing that how much he just.
It's good stuff, man. Good stuff. I'm almost tempted to do this, but I shared this story. I was going to ask you this question. When did you play the first game of catch with your dad?
Jeez, from I just feel like it was day one. You know what I mean? From first memories, it was just, always playing catch with dad.
Yeah, I tell this story. My dad, I'm one of 7 kids. We grew up, modest, didn't have much growing up at all. Lived in a 2-bedroom house. And my dad, everything was hand-me-downs. And my dad walked into the house one day with a baseball glove. It was a hand-me-down from my cousin Mario, of all, Italians, right? Mario, right?
Yeah.
And so I got his glove, and I was 5 years old at the time, and my dad was a soccer guy. Most of the family was soccer people, and I loved baseball. And I didn't play my first game of catch with my dad till I was 34 years old.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Mike, it was just, the story was this: the Cal Ripken Sr. passed, and all the Baltimore talk show radio shows, they were talking about the relationship Cal had with his dad. And I'm thinking, my dad, raised 7 kids. He's working 3 jobs. Never really, he never really came out to all the games. Not because he didn't want to, because he had to work and support us. And so they were talking about that. I'm like, man, I've never played a game of catch with my dad. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to find that first baseball glove he ever gave me, and I'm going to ask him for a game of catch for Christmas.
Nice,
Mike. This was in June of 2001, and so I'm thinking about a Christmas gift in June. And Mike, I looked for that glove for 5.5 months, and I couldn't find it, right? And I'm like, God, this is a great idea. Why won't you let me find this glove? And so we were at my dad's house 5 days before Christmas, and my dad had just had a hernia surgery, and he said, Rob, before you leave, I got this box in the basement under the steps, the closet under the steps. I need to get something out of it. It's too heavy for me to lift. If you can get it out. So it's one, I don't know if it's a row home where the closet's in the side of the steps, and you open the door and it's all the storage under the steps. Uh-huh. So I go down the basement, and sure enough, this box is as wide as the door. And so I got to stoop down like a forklift, put my hands on the side of it, stand up and back out and turn around. Mike, as I backed up and I turned around, the glove was under the box.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea how many years it was under that box.
Unbelievable.
I start to get emotional, and I'm like, Dad, I got to go. Can I take that glove with me? And he goes, it's yours. I said, Dad, as you see, I gave it to my sister. We lived in a family of hand-me-downs. It was her glove. He goes, take the glove. It's yours.
Uh-huh.
So I take the glove. I go home and I sit in front of my computer. Mike, I write this poem to my dad, and the tears started flowing and the words were flowing out. And so I put the poem in the box with a glove and a ball in it, and I wrapped it up. And Christmas Eve, we were over at my brother's house. It was like 35 of us. And my dad's sitting by himself at the table, and my wife's standing next to me. And I'm like, we're about to exchange gifts. And I'm like, I said to my wife, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this. She goes, this is your idea. You need to do it. So I sit the box in front of my dad. He opens up the ribbon, lifts up the lid. He looks at the poem, and you see tears start coming down his cheeks. And he looks at me, and he goes, when the weather gets better out. I said, no, Dad. It's been 34 years. We've never played a game of catch. Tomorrow's Christmas. I'm coming by 10 a.m. You got your glove. I got my glove. We're playing catch, and Mom's taking a picture. And we played our first game of catch. And Mike, it was amazing. It's hard not to get choked up when I think about it. So I wrote this poem, and we don't have time to really get into read it, but the last line says, Dad, all I want for Christmas is not a car, not a house, not even a watch. All I want to do is play some catch. And we played catch. And what I learned from that in a metaphorical way was I'm a guy that's going 90 miles an hour going nowhere because I'm frantically getting up every day trying to make things happen. And so I struggle with the love language. Like I'm a words of affirmation guy. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. The love languages, the 5 love languages. Yeah. And mine is words of affirmation. And I never heard my dad say the words, I love you. I never heard him say the words, I accept you. Old school Italian, born in Italy, one of 8 kids himself, right? Yeah. And so metaphorically, when I threw the ball to him, he didn't say it, but I heard, I accept you, son.
Oh.
And when he threw the ball back to me, I heard the words, I love you, son. And it just opened my world up, man. And just I was able to take the foot off the brake and coast a little easier in life, understand, you know what? I am loved. I am accepted. All from a game of catch, Mike. All from a game of catch.
I love it. Wow.
It was amazing. So anyway, you got me off tangent there, so I apologize.
That was great. I love that story.
So baseball is a life thing for me, and it's a life thing for you.
Oh, I got it too, brother.
Yeah, so Mike, as we wrap up here, how you said this is God's work. How much more work does God got going on for you, do you think?
Geez, I hope it keeps going, man. I really do. I think the impact we're having on kids and communities, I think should happen in every community. And that's my hope, that we can keep, expanding. And as far as, baseball goes, I'll always be involved in baseball one way or another. I just, the game's been so good to me. I encourage all kids to play sport. Baseball might not be, but get active, play some sports. It really helps so much with understanding people and understand how to come together as a team, how to work together. Just so many great things. We talked about the character building, just understanding how to build a growth mindset. I think is so important through sport, and it's easy and it's fun. And I think kids, when they're introduced to it at a young age, they fall in love with it. And then unfortunately, there's an age in there where they might not hear the best coaching. They might hear screaming and yelling. They might not hear different demands. And I'm so against that. Kids need to like what they're doing first, and then they'll work their butt off for it. But they got to like it first. You can't really scare them off it. You know what I mean?
So you got to provide that environment for them.
That's what I'm hoping. Just, to keep going, doing that, encouraging positive coaching. And I love talking to parents too, because, I had a strict dad. But I think a lot of times kids get turned off because parents they want too much, man. They just want too much. They want Johnny, who's 6 years old and has really good mechanics, that he's got to be in all the best stuff. And just let him be a kid, man. Let him play, until he's like 12 years old. Let him enjoy his childhood.
It's like our generation. It's messed things up.
Yeah. It's going to be so sports specific at such a young age. You know what I mean?
So Mike, 2 more questions. One, what's your favorite baseball movie?
Bull Durham.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I really, as much as the minor leagues was a terrible grind, and just super hard, I just enjoyed that
Yeah.
time on buses traveling. And
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
it was all, like I said, I think I was so naive about everything. I know in rookie ball, the buses were they were terrible. We slept on luggage racks. And all of a sudden in single A, we had a better bus. And I thought, oh, this is awesome, man. It's just going to keep getting better and better, right? And so I appreciated guys that grind through the minor leagues. It is really hard and stuff like that. So Bull Durham has that kind of good representation, I think, of the minor leagues. And, of course, that dream to make it up to the show. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Mine's A Field of Dreams. That's mine.
Okay, yeah, well, that's a really good one too. I mean, yeah, great one.
So, Mike, if you see the two pictures or frames behind me, I got Grit and Grind, and
yeah, I love it.
And then the other thing's Better Than You Think. It's a book I wrote about 4 years ago. But to me, baseball, you got to have grit and you got to grind it out, right?
You know that. I mean, my gosh, if those are two things we're missing today, is just gritty kids that know how to grind through, baby. So yeah, that's part of it too. You got to promote that, and grit and grind are the keys, man, to that perseverance, determination, all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, Mike, so look, I really appreciate this, man. I've been in heaven for the last 57 minutes here, whatever it's been. And I'm grateful for your time. If somebody wanted to get a hold, you've already mentioned this a little bit. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you through the League of Dreams, just go to the website.
Yeah, I think leagueofdreams.org is the best way to go about that. And the baseballwarehouse.com has a really good website as well. I actually have a website, MikeBordick14.com, I think it's called.
Where's the 14 come from? Nah, I'm joking.
But I think you can sign up for talks and things like that on there too. So
you're able to
and I'm on some social media sites too.
Okay, so you welcome people asking you to speak for them, right? And get out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to do something with you, like where I met you. We can do something like that in a charity sense and get you out there, speak to a group of people, and get some donations for the League of Dreams, right?
Sounds great, bro. That sounds great. Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much again. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you and trying to maybe raise some money for you here. So,
I appreciate it. Yeah, great job, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And hang on for a second. Until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.